time works, whatever time. I just have a squad meeting at 1:30. What works? 11:30. 11:30? Yeah. 12 o'clock. Whoa.
So, Mike, the main goal tonight, get through this game with the starters on the sideline?
You know, I mean, I think it's to continue to coach. The guys that have given us a lot of time since April, a lot of time and energy and effort, being conscious that you give those guys an opportunity to really show what they can do as it comes down here to the final decisions. You know, I think that's critical, that we respect those guys that played in the game. Obviously, there was a lot of guys that didn't play in the game. That wasn't my focus once the game started. You know, just trying to give those guys a great opportunity to put some tape out there.
How much can you gauge what's on the tape when it's coming against other guys that maybe?
Well, I mean, I think that you can see the effort, the competitiveness, the execution from some guys. And again, I think you can only evaluate what's out there and what they're going against. And so if a guy does a nice job on special teams, or if somebody's handling their guy or blocking their guy, whatever it may be, I think you have to give it a fair shake, because those are the spots kind of you're looking at, kind of the building your roster at the back end of your roster, where they would be special teams, core special teams players, or potentially backups.
What you see, Mike? What you like, what you not like?
Well, I mean, I think defensively we came out and played well early in the game. We gave up the drive at the end of the half. And then the second half is kind of the same story with penalties and a big play. The penalties, will continue to hurt you on defense when you give them 15 yards, and especially on third down. So offensively, just didn't have the ability to sustain drives. Penalties again, false starts on third down and 5, make it 3rd and 10. Holding penalties, make it 1st and 20. That's difficult to overcome. Great effort, chase it down, yeah. And he, and Worms, again, we've talked about him, and he does everything that he's, capable of doing with effort-wise. And John and I will get together and make decisions on where we go with the roster. But he competes every day, and I noticed that play too. And he came and chased the guy down, and then had a good rush on the quarterback. Unfortunately, they're just going to call those penalties, and I don't think that, I don't think Julius was trying to be malicious. I think he was just trying to rush and do what we asked him to do, and unfortunately, he got an unnecessary roughness penalty.
What did you tell guys? I guess a lot of these guys you coached for the last time. What would you tell them going into this one?
Well, coming into this one, I tried to recognize each and every guy that had played and practiced for us in the course of the last 6 months, and said that they've been able to make plays for us in preseason, and that they just needed to come out tonight and do it on a consistent basis, and that we'll have a meeting tomorrow. This is a tough time for everybody. My first time going through it, but I saw it firsthand as a player. I was one of those guys that really didn't know early on in my career, and you have long conversations and late conversations with your girlfriend who or your fiance, your wife, about, I don't know if I'm going to make it, and just always being respectful of these guys and the effort that they put in. Defenseless. I mean, again, I thought his head was up. I mean, I'll have to look at it. I don't know if that's a streak or that's just you being funny, Paul, but we're trying not to coach that with the head down. And I think that what happens is when there's a violent play, we got to take care of the receivers and the running backs. And so I got to look at it, and we've been coaching the head up and the face up, and unfortunately Spillane did that. The guy felt like he got in the head and neck area, and so we'll continue to do a good job of coaching it, emphasizing it, and again, we turned the plays in 4 days ago, still waiting to hear back from them on Saturday's game. 5 days later. So we'll have to get them in earlier tomorrow morning to get them back before next week's game.
Mike, how difficult is the back end of the receiver group going to be to evaluate here with some of those key guys banged up?
Well, I mean, that's kind of how it goes. It's, the durability factor is going to be critical when you start. The guys got to be able to go out there and play and practice and play on special teams. And if they're not healthy or they're not able to be out there, it's hard to keep guys. So John and I will take a look at where we are health wise and see where we're at with that position.
How did you decide on the captain, that group in particular tonight?
I felt like those guys have earned the right to be out there and be at the coin flip. Bo, I appreciate what he does. The team appreciates what he does from a snapping standpoint, from a protection standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. I mean, he takes the punt team very seriously. He helps those young guys for protection. So I felt like he should be a captain. I felt like Spillane had earned that right over the course of the time being here, knowing he was going to play a lot of snaps tonight and lead that defense. BT has been a leader, core special teams player for us, and he's going to play some defense tonight. And then Luke was going to, quarterback our offense. And then, DJ has given us a lot of great effort. And then Fluellen, I really appreciated what he's done over the course of the last 5 weeks and felt like we should honor him.
What was your initial conversation like with Correa, and maybe what, I guess, you just throw him into the mix now and let him catch up?
The initial conversation was just that, hey, you're here for a reason. You're here to play. You're here to define a role for yourself. Start with the kicking game, and then we'll move to outside linebacker, and then we'll progress from there. And he's familiar with the defense. He's familiar with Dean. And, we're excited to work with him, and he felt, obviously it seemed to me like he was excited to be here.
Can let Dawkins take advantage of his opportunities tonight?
I think so. I think you see a burst. I think you see a toughness. I think you see, a guy that loves football. He's willing to put his face in the fire. He doesn't flinch. He's not a big guy, but I do appreciate his toughness.
Mike, winless in the preseason, how reflective of that is maybe where you have this team right now?
I don't know. I think that we'll find out when we go to Miami. We'll really find out what kind of team we got, how conditioned we are, and how talented we are, and what kind of coaches we are once we get done with Miami.
Do you feel like you got accomplished what you wanted to get accomplished over the preseason despite wins?
There was glimpses of football, I think, at times, and I think the consistency is something that I'm going to really try to harp on that we need to improve on, and that starts with me just being consistent in the way we practice, consistent in our execution, because you have to do this thing over the course of 4 quarters and over the course of 16 games to really have success. You can't be, up and down one week and maybe play a good quarter and then play a bad quarter. I think the consistency is something that, we'll continue to harp on.
How do you feel about the overall health at this stage?
I feel better than I did 2 weeks ago.
What do you tell the guys, like some of these guys that are on the bubble? Any advice you can give them to clean up the next day or two? Anything that they should do to kind of ease the tension?
Well, I mean, I think that if you, felt like they gave it everything they had every day, if they can lay their head down on the pillow and say that, I think that then they have to just be okay with whatever decision comes. And I think that most of those guys have. I wouldn't say that there'd be anybody that was like wasted our time or wasted their time. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.